And then you have people who are lying about even the fragile truce that we've already struck.
We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case.
Trump and Vance unleashed sharp attacks during the fragile ceasefire, hitting media with extreme language. As Israel strikes in Lebanon continued and Iran shut the Strait of Hormuz, confusion spread across the region. U.S. and Iran reportedly got differing truce proposals, with Pakistan's mediation left in doubt. Amid a fragile ceasefire, Donald Trump slammed recent reports by the New York Times and CNN on April 9. Trump said the coverage of Iran's 10-point truce proposal by the two outlets was fake and misleading to the public. His comments came as confusion over the ceasefire terms fueled tensions, leading to fresh military operations in the region. On April 8, Israel launched nearly 100 airstrikes on targets in Lebanon in just 10 minutes, prompting Iran to call it a violation. The US and Israel maintained that Lebanon was not part of the truce, but Iran insisted it was and simultaneously blocked the Strait of Hormuz. Reopening the strategic oil shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz had been a key condition set by Trump for halting hostilities. Earlier, reports highlighted confusion over the nuclear enrichment clause in the 10-point framework intended for US-Iran talks. While the English version of Iran's document omitted references to nuclear enrichment, the original Farsi version reportedly included it. U.S. President Donald Trump wrote, and I quote, "The failing New York Times and fake news CNN each reported a totally fake 10-point plan on the Iran negotiations which was meant to discredit the people involved in the peace process. All 10 points were a made-up hoax, evil losers. Make America great again," unquote. CNN rejected the allegations made by President Trump, insisting that it had received its information from verified sources. The network said, "We received the statement from official Iranian spokespeople who are known to us," defending its reporting. Trump, however, insisted that Tehran's only official response was a brief English statement issued by Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. The president's comments came after U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance revealed that he had seen 3 different versions of the 10-point deal. Vance explained that the differing proposals had fueled confusion over the terms of negotiations and the scope of the ceasefire. He added that the first proposal, allegedly shared with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, had been immediately rejected. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said, and I quote, "The first 10-point proposal was something that was submitted, and we think, frankly, was probably written by ChatGPT to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and it immediately went in the garbage and was rejected. A second 10-point proposal that was much more reasonable and that was based on some back and forth between us, the Pakistanis, and the Iranians," unquote. Vance's comments on confusion over the ceasefire raised questions about the role of the mediator. His claims sparked speculation that Pakistan may have shared differing proposals with both sides, fueling the dispute.
But we thankfully at this point, I think, have a ceasefire, thanks to the leadership of the President of the United States. We have the Iranians promising to open the Straits of Hormuz, and we have a negotiation that's supposed to start this weekend. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states. Now, that said, the Israelis, as I understand it, again, I'm supposed to get a fuller report when I get on the plane, have actually offered to be, frankly, to check themselves a little bit in Lebanon because they want to make sure that our negotiation is successful. Fundamentally, the Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation. I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
Less than 24 hours after the U.S. announced a ceasefire with Iran, Iranian state media reported that the Strait of Hormuz had been shut down again, reversing a key condition of the truce. The complete and safe reopening of the strait was President Trump's stated condition for the 2-week ceasefire, tying the pause in U.S. strikes directly to the free passage of oil shipments. The stunning move came less than 24 hours after the U.S. and Israel publicly backed the truce talks with Iran on March 7th to 8th, raising immediate questions about the deal's stability. The closure happened despite earlier indications that Iran would reopen the vital shipping route as part of the broader agreement, at least for the duration of the 2-week pause. On the night of March 8th to 9th, Iran's press TV reported that an oil tanker was turned away near the strait, underscoring the tightening of maritime controls in the region. The tanker, named Aurora, made an abrupt 180-degree turn at sea and instead returned toward the Persian Gulf rather than continuing through the strait. The U.S. government has stated that the Aurora is a sanctioned vessel, alleging it is used to transport Iranian oil outside the usual commercial channels. According to reports citing the semi-official Fars news agency, Iran's decision to close the strait was framed as a response to Israeli military operations in Lebanon, not solely to the ceasefire terms. Israel has intensified its strikes on Lebanon in recent days, saying it is targeting Hezbollah positions and infrastructure linked to Iranian support. Reports indicate that Israel launched around 100 suspected strikes on Lebanese territory within a 10-minute window on April 8, suggesting a concentrated, high-intensity campaign. These strikes in Lebanon have reportedly killed over 110 civilians and wounded more than 800 others, drawing sharp condemnation from humanitarian groups. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. Vice President Vance have both stated that the America-Iran truce does not apply to Lebanon. The situation has highlighted growing disparities between the sides over whether the ceasefire includes the Lebanon front or only applies to Iran directly. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. Vice President Vance have both stated that the America-Iran truce does not apply to Lebanon, treating Hezbollah as a separate conflict. In his public remarks, Netanyahu also warned that Israel could resume full-scale war with Iran at any moment in order to complete the original war goals. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the United States must act on its commitments, including any understanding about the situation in Lebanon, if the broader truce is to be credible. At the same time, U.S. President Trump has openly backed Israel's continued military actions in Lebanon, reiterating that Hezbollah was not included in the deal. Trump described the situation in Lebanon as a separate skirmish, downplaying its link to the wider Iran-US ceasefire even as attacks continue across the region. Israel carried out a massive bombardment on Lebanon on April 8, according to reports by Iranian outlet Press TV and regional media. Local reporting said Israel launched at least 100 separate strikes on Lebanese territory in just under 10 minutes. The attacks were described as the heaviest Israeli bombardment on Lebanon since the early weeks of March. Lebanese media reported that at least 80 people were killed and around 200 others wounded in Beirut alone. Israel also struck densely populated areas including Saida, Nabatee, and parts of the Bekaa region, according to Al Mayadeen and other outlets. Hospitals across Lebanon issued urgent calls for blood donations as casualty numbers mounted and facilities became overwhelmed. The Israeli military said Hezbollah has vacated much of its traditional stronghold in Beirut's southern suburbs, known as Dahia. According to the IDF, the group is repositioning toward northern Beirut and into more mixed residential areas in the city.
The IDF attacked hundreds of Hezbollah terrorists in a surprise strike at headquarters throughout Lebanon. This is the largest concentrated blow Hezbollah has suffered since the Pagers operation. We insisted on separating the arenas between Iran and Lebanon in order to change the reality in Lebanon and remove threats from the residents in the north. We warned Naim Qassem, Hezbollah's Secretary General, that Hezbollah would pay a very high price for attacking Israel on behalf of Iran, and today we fulfilled another step in the promise. Also, the personal turn of the terrorist Naim Qassem will come. IDF forces continue to operate vigorously in Lebanon to ward off threats and thwart Hezbollah's capabilities, in accordance with the policy we have established. We promise to bring security to the residents in the north, and that is exactly what we will do.